And we will get started. Will the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, September 6th, 2023, please come to order. This evening's meeting will be a virtual planning and zoning meeting hosted by Zoom. During this meeting, our procedures will be as follows. 1, when you first enter the meeting room, you will be in a virtual waiting room until the meeting host admits you. 2, please be aware that your camera, if you have one, and your microphone will be muted by the meeting host when you enter the meeting. You can turn on your camera at any time so that you can be seen by others if you choose to. In order to run an efficient and orderly meeting in this virtual environment, unless stated otherwise by the meeting chairman during the meeting host will keep everyone other than the commission members muted. You will still be able to hear everything that's said by the commission members, even if you're muted and or your camera is not on. There will be opportunity for public comment during public hearings, at which time public participants will be unmuted. 3, the secretary will read the call of the meeting as published according to Governor Lamont's executive order. 4, during the public hearing, the applicant will be invited to present the application, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested. The meeting host will share all related documents on the screen as needed. In addition, all applications and supporting materials for each application on the agenda are available through the public meeting calendar page of the town website, www.guilfordct.gov, and also through a direct link on the planning and zoning page. 5, comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. There will be clarifying questions from the commissioners. 6, there will then be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. Please raise your hand through the Zoom platform and wait to be called on and unmuted. As this public hearing must be recorded, it's necessary for speakers to identify themselves each time they speak by stating their name and address. 7, after all clarifying questions are exhausted, those who wish to speak in support of the application will be asked to come forward, state their name and address for the record, and make a statement. Then those who wish to speak in opposition to the application will be asked to come forward, state their name and address for the record, and make their statement. 8, the applicant will then have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public or commissioners. 9, once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearings and the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as the decision of this commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. 10, decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling Planning and Zoning Department at 203-453-8039 or by emailing planning.zoning@guilfordct.gov after 9 a.m. 11, all actions taken on applications tonight by the commission will be by roll call. All commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. See this evening are the following members who will please identify themselves. Commissioner Kevin Clark.
Here.
Bill Freeman.
Here.
Has Ted Sands joined us yet? Hi, Ted
Yep.
Sands. Bill
Here.
Johnson.
Present.
Sean Cosgrove.
Here.
Frankie Andrews not here. Scott Edmund, chair is me. Alternate tonight is Bob Harrington. I'd like to welcome Bob, his first time here as an alternate on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you.
And
Welcome.
you'll actually be seated, so
Jumping right in.
you're ready. Staff present tonight. We welcome our new town planner, Ann Hartgen. Welcome.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you all.
Glad you're on board. I know this is your second day, but we'll go easy on you. And we also have
Don't make any promises you can't keep.
Exactly.
we will attempt to. Janique Morgan, Administrative Assistant of Planning and Zoning. This meeting will be
John,
recorded.
John,
This
go
meeting
on.
will be recorded via the Zoom platform and made available to the town website for viewing. And we'll let Mr. Hoey say something before we read the legal notice.
Thank you, Scott, for the indulgence. I had a chance to spend an hour and a half or a little bit more with Ann earlier today, and I'm more convinced that the decision that we made collectively, you, myself, and Mitch, a couple of months ago was the right choice, and look forward to working with her. As I know she's already had conversations with you and is working towards what will make the life of the commission easier, better, and more efficient. So glad to have her aboard.
Absolutely. Great. Secretary will now read the legal notice.
I will. Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a virtual public hearing on September 6th, 2023 at 7:30 PM via the Zoom platform by using the following link. Attendees are advised not to go to the regular community center location because a physical meeting will not take place. The following applications will be heard: Sheila McCarron and Patricia Brennan, 144 Birch Grove, map 13, lot 22, zone RS1. Coastal site plan application to raise the height of the existing single-family home and modify existing decks to comply with FEMA regulations. Lorero Engineering Associates, Inc., 405 Whitfield Street, map 28, lot 5, zone I1, modification of the existing special permit and coastal site plan application to modify the location of the public viewing area. State Street Developers LLC, State Street, map 54, lot 5, zone MUOS, modification of existing special permit to change the grading of the loop portion of the roadway, allowing for basements. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the Planning and Zoning Office and on the town's website. At this hearing, persons may attend via web connection and shall be heard. All written correspondence shall be submitted to planning.zoning@guilford.ct.gov 24 hours prior to the meeting day. Documents are available at the Planning and Zoning Office. Dial 203-453-8039 for assistance. Dated Guilford, Connecticut, this 15th day of August 2023. Scott Edmund, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Heard Ted loud and clear, and I'll give the second to Bill. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous there. All right. First item on our agenda for the public hearing, Ryan P. and Aaron M. Connolly, 54 Water Street, map 32, lot 71, zone R3, special permit to construct a 2-car garage and accessory dwelling unit with a footprint above 750 square feet. This is continued from August 2nd.
Sorry. Good evening, everyone. Todd Anderson from Anderson Engineering Surveying Associates, 1054 Boston Post Road here in Guilford. We are continuing this public hearing on my client's desire to build a 2-car garage with an attached accessory apartment. At the last meeting, there were questions arising of the height of the proposed garage. I will own up to my error that I was assuming we were in a zone that allowed for a 20-foot height when I was mistaken, and we are in a zone that allows a 15-foot height. So we have gone before Zoning Board of Appeals and presented our plans to them and procured a variance to build the garage at a height of 22 feet. It will be a 20-foot high garage, but because we are in a flood zone, we lose 2 feet. So we were able to obtain a 22-foot variance, 7 feet higher than what is the allowable height in the zone that this property is in. So you guys were looking for elevation plans at the last meeting. We do have elevation views of the proposed garage. The physical location has not changed since our initial proposal. What you guys looked at before, everything is the same. But you do have new elevation plans that show what the garage will look like. Jernique, if you could pull up the elevation plans that I submitted, please, so you can see what this garage is going to look like.
Your magic, Janique. Yeah.
So that is the front view as you would look at it from the road. Typical old style Guilford barn looking garage with a little porch on the accessory apartment to the right. So we have a total height to the top of the building of 21.6. We did get a variance for 22 feet just to be on the safe side. So that roof pitch is about the smallest amount that we could do without having to worry about any problems with a shallow roof pitch with water permeating that roof. Janique, could you go to the side view of it, please? Because it's similar to the same style barn that I showed you a picture of before, where the main pitch of the roof is up towards the front of the garage, and then it's kind of like a country barn where it has a shallower pitch down to the rear of the building. So it's a little less obtrusive to the neighbors, and it's in kind with typical style barns of Guilford. So again, the only thing we are before you for is because this building is over 750 square feet in footprint, we need the special permit in order to build this building. It is a 2-car garage and an accessory apartment for their parents to live in when they are of age. You know, by the time they build this, they will be of the age to move into this apartment. There is existing landscaping in front of this building along the road, which will be maintained. So there is a buffer from the road to this building. The neighbor directly across the street, my client said that they were going to be writing a letter to the commission in support of this, but I have not seen that letter yet. But to note, I have also not seen any negative letters from anyone in the neighborhood. And, you know, of course, the neighbor directly across the street would be, other than the neighbor right next door, the neighbor across the street would be the most impacted by this. And they have verbally stated favorably to this application, but unfortunately, I have not received a physical letter from them. So we do have the health department approval. We have the zoning board of appeals approval. And our last step is you guys. So at that point, I am open for any questions.
Great, thank you. We do have a couple memos, unless there's a question from the commissioners first. Yes, Phil.
Todd, can you tell me what the applicant's hardship was with the zoning board of appeals?
We went to them and basically stated to them that in order to keep a country style look of the building and in keeping with similar barns and garages in Guilford, if we were not granted the variance, it was basically going to be a flat roof, so we went on not only aesthetics, but also the fact that because we are in a flood zone, we had to raise the garage by 2 feet. So we lost 2 feet in the height just because we had to elevate it to be FEMA compliant. So that, and then another small part of it was that in your new regulations, you guys are going to be changing the allowable height to 20 feet and also allowing grading around a garage, that it would have been compliant had he waited a few months. And if you guys hopefully ratify your new regulations, it would have fit. So that was another small contributing factor to their decision. But it more hinged on the aesthetics and in keeping with other garages in the neighborhood. And there was another variance that was granted by the commission just in the last year and a half or so, further down Water Street on the north side, exact same height variance. And I presented to them, that garage has its peak perpendicular to the road, whereas this one is parallel to the road. That one is a lot more obtrusive than this application, whereas this peak and the overall area of the roof area that is over that 15-foot limit is of small footprint. So all of those factors combined, they felt favorable to grant this variance.
Thank you, Todd. Any other questions from commissioners before we go to a couple memos? Yes, Ted Sands.
I had occasion to walk by this property today, and there's a for sale sign on the property.
Nope, that's not a for sale sign. That is a sign advertising my clients as real estate agents. It's a very small sign. They are real estate agents. So that is their sign advertising their business.
Oh, so the property is not listed for sale.
Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about the 750 square feet. I wasn't
Yep.
clear on what was about.
That it's over 750 square feet, so that's why it's coming to us as a special permit. Otherwise, a building like this would not have to come to planning and zoning as a special permit.
So as an ADU, that I thought it was 1,000 square feet. So maybe I'm confused.
Correct, but this is
Yeah.
also a garage. It's really the fact that the garage, it's a garage, which makes it fall in the category of 750. It's a bit of a strange mix that we might have to look at in the future.
Yeah.
But yes.
Okay.
And actually, if I'm not mistaken, even if it was just an ADU and it was over 750 square feet footprint, I would still have to come before you for a special permit under your current regulations.
I believe it's 1,000, but we can.
Yeah,
we'll check
because
on
we
it.
adopted the state rule, right?
Yeah, it might have even be 1,200 actually. I forget exactly.
Yeah, It's 1,200. So, how does
just-
the garage trigger that? I mean, it's not livable space. It's just a parking garage.
Well, so there's a separate zoning code about garages and outbuildings that if they're over 750 square feet, then they require a special permit. So we might have to have Glenn take a look at that and make sure there isn't a strange overlap happening in the new regs. I would hope
Okay.
that his new regs have it ironed out. The distinction between a garage with an ADU and a garage without. We'll just double check that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So we have a memo here from Steve Natick, our outgoing interim town planner. Mr. Phil Johnson, could we have you read this one for us?
Sure. Dated August 27th, 2023, Town of Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission from Steve Natick, CZEO, interim town planner, 54 Water Street special permit application for accessory structure greater than 750 square feet. Statutory date of receipt is June 21st, 2023. Public hearing opened July 19th, 2023. Total possible, this is all new. Total possible days 35, expires August 23rd. Extension eligible, yes. Applicant requests extension to September 6th. Possible days 65, 35 days used as of September 6th. Deliberation open, total possible days 65. Plan review comments. The site development plan should be revised to include an erosion control plan. 2, the applicant has applied for a variance of the zoning regulations 273-25, Table 3, Line 4, building height to construct an accessory structure with a height of 22 feet where 15 is allowed. Minutes from the Guilford Zoning Board of Appeals meeting dated 8/23 have not yet been posted. If the variance has been approved, it must be filed in the office of Guilford Town Clerk in order to become effective. The applicant should provide evidence of any variance filing prior to the Planning and Zoning Commission rendering a decision on this application. 3, updated architectural plans and floor plans have not been provided to the Planning and Zoning Commission at the time of this memo in order. Plans should be provided to verify compliance with the variance application and zoning regulations permitted in 273-99. Recommendation: if the applicant's variance is approved and filed and the applicant can provide updated architectural drawing which confirmed compliance with item number 3 above, the application should be considered for approval pending any remaining comments from the commission. A draft motion is provided for review and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. So, Mr. Anderson, you handled
Yeah,
numbers 2
may-
and 3. What about the erosion
May I
control?
address that letter first?
Sure.
Or do you want to read the next letter first?
Yeah, I mean, you've handled items 2 and 3. You've already stated that. So the question is about erosion control plan. Is that on your drawings now?
The erosion controls were added to my plan on July 14th. So I don't understand why his letter of end of August still asked for that. The erosion controls were added on July 14th, and we revised the plan on July 28th to for the building height for submittal to ZBA. And then I revised the plan again on August 24th, the day after the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, to reflect their approval. So, you know, there are erosion control, there is an erosion control plan on my plan, dated back to July 14th. So they are on my current plan as well. Journey, could you pull up my latest plan, please? Dated August 24th.
Todd, just to be clear, that the variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals has been filed with the town clerk?
I don't think my client has gotten that in the mail yet. As soon as he does, he will file it. But it was.
It has
entered on
been filed.
the list. I'm sorry.
It has been filed with the town clerk.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, that was going to be a hang up. I appreciate your chipping in.
And I can confirm that I saw a copy of that today.
Great, thank you.
So if you zoom in on the middle section that shows the proposed garage and apartment, you will see that dashed line that kind of looks like solid and open space line going around the septic system and the entire site. That is the proposed silt fence. We do have the 16 feet of 12-inch galleries, which handles all of the roof drainage off of the proposed garage. We have the code compliant septic system shown in the plan. And also, now that we're looking at the plan, I just want to reiterate that there is an existing landscape area between the existing driveway and the road, that landscape area buffer will be maintained. Yep, thank you, in that area there. So it will fit nicely into the property without much obtrusion onto the main road there.
Thank you. Any other questions for commissioners on?
And
The site
it looks to
plan
me
there?
like a rather large deck area and shed in the rear of the property is going away, right?
Yes, that was another, I'm sorry, that was another part of the granting of the variance, was that we were actually eliminating a nonconformity with those decks and sheds in the rear of the property. And it was basically, I forget the number now, but I think it was a net of 300 square feet increase of conforming to setbacks, but non-conforming to height. So it was a trade-off that they felt was for the better for the property.
Great, thank you. We also
have,
got the
just
memo
a-
that you mentioned. Sure. Question,
Like,
Bob?
yeah, a couple quick questions. One, I was just looking over the map and just what is the actual square footage of the whole building? Just so I can understand it compared to the 750 that is supposed to be allowed.
That is 1,650 square feet.
Okay, I just wanted to understand it a little better. And then the other question I have is, as I noticed, the sheds and the decks were all being removed in the corner. And what the only thing I don't understand about that is, are those not are they just sitting on the ground so that removing them is very easy and isn't going to disturb any ground? Because it seems to me like if we're going to disturb ground to remove those, then perhaps the silt fence should actually go around that as well.
No, those are basically sitting on the ground. There's no foundations to them. He might disturb some raccoons and groundhogs that live under them. Other than that, there will be no disturbance.
Okay, I was just curious about that. Thank you.
We do have a last memo that you mentioned from health inspector. I'll ask let's see, Mr. Kevin Clark, please, if you can read this one.
You got it, Scott. To Planning and Zoning Commission from Victoria Davis, Environmental Health Inspector, date August 28th, 2023. RE Ryan P. and Aaron M. Connolly, 54 Water Street, map 32, lot 71, zone R3, special permit to construct a 2-car garage, an accessory dwelling unit with a footprint above 750 square feet. An engineered subsurface sewage disposal plan was submitted to the Health Department June 15th, 2023 for the review of a new code-compliant septic system for an existing 4-bedroom home and a proposed 1-bedroom accessory dwelling unit and 2-car garage. Plan review comments were sent to the engineer on July 12th. Engineer plan approved on 8/28/23. Most recent plan dated 8/24/23. The Department of Public Health approved the central system exception on 7/17/23. Victoria Davis, Environmental Health Inspector.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, any last questions from commissioners before we open up to the public? Great, at this time, if there are any questions from the public, please raise your hand to the Zoom platform, state your name and address before you're asking your question. There's 2 pages. Let me just jump over here. All right, seeing no questions, would anyone like to speak in support of this application? Would anyone like to speak in opposition to this application? All right, if there's no further public comment, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing on this item.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
All right, Sean moved, and we got the second from Ted. We'll do roll call. Bob Harrington? Yes or no? To close the public hearing?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Kevin Clark?
Yes.
Ted Sands?
yes,
Bill Freeman?
Yes.
Philip Johnson?
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove?
Aye.
And I will vote yes to close the public hearing. We'll attempt to deliberate on this evening. Thanks, Todd. Next item on the agenda is Sheila McCarron and Patricia Brennan, 144 Birch Grove, map 13, lot 22, zone RS-1, coastal site plan application to raise the height of the existing site plan, a single family home, and modify existing decks to comply with FEMA regulations. We have someone here for this application. Hey,
Hello
Mr.
again.
Anderson, come on by.
Todd Anderson from Anderson Engineering Survey and Associates, 1054 Boston Post Road here in Guilford, on behalf of my clients who have a little cottage down in Leeds Island on the property owned by the Leet brothers. They lease the land from them. They have a cottage. I forget the year it was built. I think it was dated back to the 30s or 40s. It's another one of those really old cottages. They intend to rebuild their cottage to be FEMA compliant on new pilings, raising it up above the FEMA flood zone and adding some new decks to the cottage to make it more livable. And there's also a little shower area in the back. They will be creating a new shower area with an associated changing room and so forth. This is a seasonal cottage. So we are before you tonight for just the coastal area management plan aspect of them rebuilding their cottage to be FEMA compliant. We had the tidal wetlands marked by Rich Snarsky, which were located and shown in the plan. Journey, could you pull up my plan, please? So this cottage is, as you pull into Leeds Island, on the main road, there to the left, there is a small little tidal wetland pool area there. This cottage is to the east side of that little tidal wetland pool area. So you can see it from the main drag as you first come into Leeds Island. So they are basically taking the existing cottage area that is there now and rebuilding it and raising it to be FEMA compliant. The only additions outside of the footprint of the existing cottage area are the elevated decks associated with rebuilding the cottage. And then expanding slightly the walkway to the north side of the cottage by a few feet to accommodate the steps that are required to come up to the elevated cottage. And then in the back there, that existing shower is extremely small and tight. They are basically about doubling the size of that shower area to make it more livable and workable for their intended uses, and an associated deck for that. The decks are a pervious surface area, so we don't show any increase in impervious area on the site, so there is no groundwater infiltration storage required for this project. We do show the soil and erosion controls along the edge of the road, just in case, basically the only soil excavation will be for replacing the new piers, which will be very minimal. But just as a precaution to protect the tidal wetlands, we do show that silt fence all along the edge of the road there. And I think that is it in a nutshell. So I'm open for any questions.
Todd, this is Sean. Does the elevation go from Birch Grove down towards the cottage or down towards the tidal wetlands?
The existing cottage is about 1, 2, 3. It's about 4 feet higher than the tidal wetlands. So
the proposed elevation.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Proposed elevation will be how high?
The existing cottage floor is at 11.7. The proposed floor elevation of the new cottage will be at 15. And we are within a 11 flood zone. So it's intended to be a betterment. FEMA is revising their flood maps, and this is actually an area where FEMA is considering making that flood zone either a LIMWA or a V zone. So we are, they want to rebuild the cottage in the first place because it's old, it's rotting, it needs updating, it's not usable in its current condition. And they are being proactive in raising it above what is necessary with the knowledge that FEMA, with rising ocean waters and so forth, and the revising of flood zones, that this may be a velocity zone or at least a limited wave action zone, and they may raise the flood zone a foot or two. They want to be proactive and be well above anything that may happen in the future. They're looking forward many years, not just a couple.
Okay, and my final question is, the existing shed to be replaced. So if there's an outbuilding such as that shed, does that fall within any kind of FEMA requirements as far as elevation?
No, that is well above the flood zone. That
Okay.
is up at elevation 14 or 15. That is well beyond the flood zone. And as you can see on my map, that FZ line kind of bisects about 80% of the cottage is in the flood zone. The rear 20% or so is not in the flood zone. That shed is up on the hill. That was a prefab shed that is probably over 20 years old. They hope to replace it in kind. There will be another prefab shed that will be delivered and set in place in the same exact spot, same size,
Okay.
only a new shed.
Yep, I can see the elevation lines now. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Todd, it's not shown on your drawing, but looks like there's a home maybe 100 feet behind this, but it's up on an elevation. Do you have any idea how much higher that home behind them is compared to the current house?
That cottage, I can find it. If you want to know a number, I can go to the GIS map and find out. But that home is probably about 20 or 30 feet higher.
Does it continue slope? Like it slopes quite a bit behind this house right now. Does it continue to slope that much all the way to that house behind them?
Well, if you look at my plan, at the
Yeah,
edge of the lawn there where I show the ledge outcrop next to the existing shed,
Yep.
kind of
15,
if you
16,
bring the cursor
17.
down, yeah, right in that area there is a large ledge outcrop about 5 feet away from those shots that goes straight up about 10 feet. And then it continues to rise quite rapidly up beyond that.
All right. So even if you're raising this house, you're not really obstructing the one behind you at all.
Oh, absolutely not.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Actually, I'm looking at the GIS map now.
Yep.
That cottage behind this one, I'm looking at a contour line of 40 at the western edge of that house. So that is absolutely 20 feet higher to the base of that cottage behind it. So yeah, no, there's no obstruction of view.
All right. Any other questions from commissioners before we get into memos? I'm not seeing any. All right. Let's All right, let's go. Who we haven't heard from yet? Let's go with Mr. Bob Harrington. If you could read the memo from Kevin McGee, environmental planner.
Oh. Since I haven't done this before, how detailed do I have to be in reading? Like everything, or?
The body of it is the most important part.
All right. So to
Start
Guilford,
from the-
Connecticut.
start from the date.
Thank you. This is why I asked. September 1st, 2023, to Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission from Kevin McGee, environmental planner, regarding coastal area management review. Sheila McCarran and Patricia Brennan, 144 Birch Grove, Guilford, Connecticut, 06437, assessor map 13, lot 22. The applicant is proposing to elevate the existing cottage to make it flood compliant, installing 5 additional decks, replacing a shed, and installing and I'm going to mispronounce it, a bituminous sidewalk from the road to behind the house. No proposed stormwater management measures were proposed as part of this renovation. The property is located in an AE elevated 11 flood zone. The coastal resource policies applicable for the property are coastal hazard area, beach, and tidal wetlands. Work required to bring the property into the compliance will require site excavation to elevate the house above the required flood elevations. This additional work would have an impact on the adjacent coastal resources if the erosion and sedimentation control measures are not properly installed and maintained. In order to make sure that the coastal resources are protected, I recommend the following conditions of approval. 1, any disturbed areas and soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales. The town of Guilford zoning enforcement officers should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to site construction. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement. 2, the site should be inspected daily to make sure that all construction debris has been properly disposed of in a covered dumpster.
Great, thank you. Todd, Mr. Anderson, I assume you don't have any issue with those stipulations.
No, not at all. Those are standard.
All right, Mr. Ted Sands, could you please get this one from Janice Blazniak?
Yes. To Planning and Zoning Commission from Janice Blazniak, professional engineer, town planner, date September 5, 2023, re 144 Birch Grove. I reviewed the coastal site plan for the above referenced property. The proposed property appears to be compliant with flood plan management, and it is a good thing to see a house elevated in a special flood hazard area. This property will have the first floor higher than required for flood compliance. All material below elevation 12 foot will be required to be flood resistant material. A more detailed review for flood compliance will be done at time of building permit application. There is no additional roof area as part of the project, so stormwater management is not required.
Mr. Sands. Mr. Anderson, I assume you don't have any issue with flood resistant materials.
Absolutely not. That is standard as well.
All right, that's all we have for memos. Any questions from commissioners? Once again. All right, I'll open up to questions from the public. If you have a question, please raise your hand through the Zoom. And we will call upon you. Seeing no questions, if I'd welcome anyone to speak in support of this application. And I'd welcome anyone to speak in opposition to this application. Okay. Seeing none, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing on this item.
So moved.
I heard Ted Sands for the motion.
I must be muted.
He just has that voice, I think. Phil,
I
that
heard
just-
you, Phil.
All right, Philip, do you want to be the second then?
Sure, that'd be great. Thanks,
All
Scott.
right, I'll give it to you. All right, roll call vote. Bob Harrington,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I will also vote yes. We'll attempt to deliberate on this in our regular meeting.
Thank you,
Next,
everyone.
the next
See you-
item, we'll see you later.
I'll see you
Next
very-
item on our agenda, Loriero Engineering Associates, Inc., 405 Whitfield Street, map 28, lot 5, zone I1. Modification of the existing special permit and coastal site plan applications to modify the location of the public viewing area.
Good evening. I'm Russell Campaign from CK Architects, and I'm here with Emily Kelting from Lorero and Associates to present this modification to our existing special permit and coastal site plan application. I'm not sure if it's easier. Can I share my screen, Janik, or
You should be able to.
Yep, fantastic. I will do that. And I will walk you through it. Perfect. Okay, so I will use the architectural plan, and I can also reference the engineering plan to walk you through. But I think it's helpful to compare what was approved and what we're proposing. So originally, when we made application, we were asked to do a public viewing platform, and there was some concern associated with our negotiations with Janus about where we could put it with relation to what fill and other things that we could do on the site. And it ended up sort of sitting in the center of the property here with a long entry sidewalk that ran along to sort of skirt a couple areas and allow us to actually fill that area that was constrained in other locations on the property. But as we started to develop the actual grades on the site, we saw that there was an outlet over in this area that allowed for a larger area than we expected along and adjacent to the road. And so instead of this long road into this platform here, we're proposing to actually have the sidewalk that comes along Pages Lane enter right into an area right here that's of similar size that has a very similar longitudinal view down to the Long Island Sound area right here. And one of the things that I think is important, and I'm not sure if you were out at the site, the way that the condos are set up, there's a large terrace on the back of each of these that's one story up on the main living level. And if you're out there in this location, it feels very much watched by these private residences down here. So I do actually feel that this is going to be a much more utilized location, even with signage and other things to identify the other site as a place that is public access. I actually think that this is going to feel much more intuitive, and it's at the same elevation as what we're proposing here. So it has the same view corridor. If I move this over here, I can show you three-dimensionally, which I think may help. So this is coming off of Whitfield at the corner and entering into Pages Lane, and it comes down and you can see the sidewalk that is here that runs all the way out to Whitfield Street, and there's a new crosswalk proposed there. And as you come down along the building, there'll be this walkway will just turn with some plantings on either side and enter into a longitudinal view that basically looks out towards the Long Island side. There's about a I don't know, quarter mile of actual Long Island sign that's visible between Chittenden Park and Pages Lane property that the town owns. And in relation to these overlooking rear terraces, the other proposed location was right here, and it's very sort of observed, let's just say, by the private residences here. This feels much more associated with the public space and the public walkway here. And the hope is that something occurs on Pages Lane, and this is extended down, and this is a node as part of a larger picture if Pages Lane is ever utilized in that way. From a vantage point of the view, I really see no different in the actual long view that you have from either of the two locations. They're both the same elevation, so the relationship is to the long view of the water is basically the same. There is a hope. We are trying to piggyback onto the town's application to cut the Phragmite. They're planning to do their town lands next spring, and we're trying to piggyback onto that application if possible. We talked to Janice about it. I can't promise that we will be able to get the permit onto theirs, but our intention is, which will definitely improve the view. But I can see as someone that's 5'6", I can see over the Phragmite, which is basically at its highest right now. But basically, the two locations would be similar. So from a vantage point of looking at the actual engineering proposed plan. I can zoom in here a little bit. Basically, the only modification, so there's an outflow from the storm drains that runs down here to an outflow spreader that's here. So that basically is the same as we had, and we just leveled a little area with a little bit of riprap to bring us down to that area to level off sort of a level viewing platform. And we're using the same materials that we're planning to use elsewhere on the property. So it'll be a concrete sidewalk to meet the town standards that comes down with another sort of curb cut in this location that then gives you access in. And we're going to change to a paver with a granite curb around the perimeter that matches the other details of the site. We're proposing to have 2 benches that sort of face one another and look out in that location. So I think it's very similar to what was presented and approved, and I think it will be more utilized given the sense of comfort and privacy when someone's there compared to the other location. We do have a letter and met with staff actually. So we've met with the interim town planner, Nigel, the zoning officer, both were in support of it before they left. They felt it was an improvement. Janice has a letter that's submitted, and Kevin McGee was in the meeting as well and felt that it was a positive and would probably be more comfortable for people to use. I don't know if he submitted a letter. I did not receive one, but there is one from Janice.
Sure. Before we get to our memos, any initial questions from commissioners?
Hey, so Russ, the sidewalk that goes down Pages Lane will end at the this viewing area, right?
At this time, it ends there because there's nothing further down to access. So yes, that was part of our approval, and it basically spills into there. But I think the hope is that something larger happens there with something that has continuity potentially down to Pages Lane or something along those lines in the future.
Thank you.
Is there a curb for that sidewalk
Yes.
along Pages Lane?
Yeah, so it is a concrete curb on the roadside. That was sort of in keeping with the town details. We changed to a granite curb inside the site, and this will be perimeter with a granite curb at the edge around the planting.
Mr. Johnson.
Russ, I kind of have a 2-part question. What's driving this request? I mean, I appreciate the perspective that you presented that maybe people in the public might feel that they're being looked at, but the reverse of that is maybe the people in the condos don't want the public in front of them.
Well, is that in the reverse? I don't know if it's necessarily that the two can't be.
I'm just curious who's driving the request.
So I think we didn't see this as an opportunity when we looked at it. If we roll all the way back, there was discussion of a loop trail that came around, and there was some discomfort with how that spilled out onto Whitfield Street without a crosswalk and some other things. So the town staff requested us to not do that actually, and asked us to put a platform in, and that happened very quickly. And we proposed 2 or 3 locations that were denied due to filling and some other concerns associated from the town engineer. So we landed on the location that we put it there as kind of the only place that we could see at the time. So I think it was also just an opportunity for us to revisit what was a kind of a minor in a very big project, kind of something that we didn't give the attention to that we probably should have, and this was an opportunity for us to revisit it. But yes, I think that it's both ways. Obviously, the views from these condos, from the people looking at them, would rather not have the public access into their site. Everybody has the worst thoughts of someone being there at 11 o'clock at night and drinking and all of this. But on the other hand, I think, it is, I don't think it's going to be comfortable to stand underneath those terraces as private terraces.
Thanks. Mr. Sands?
I noticed that the Conservation Commission is recommending that we do not approve this change. And their apparent reason is that the view is worse at this other location. You must have appeared before them. What's the issue here?
Well, we don't have to appear before them. And actually, I did not receive that letter, and I wasn't given any indication that they were in opposition to it. So I have to say, and we haven't given a presentation to them. So I'd love to hear what their opposition is, but I made the request, to town staff that the site is open. We actually sprayed it out. I had Steve look at it. We sprayed out at this exact location. I don't see how it compromises the view in any way. The eagles are actually, the actual nest, it depends on which nest that they've sort of are at, but they're both just as visible from both locations. And the long view to the water isn't compromised or neck down at all. So I don't know why they would say that. And elevation wise, it's not as though we're at the same height above sea level, so the long view is the same. So I'm sort of surprised, but I'm also broadsided by that because we didn't receive any indication that they were submitting a letter in opposition.
Okay, well, let's go through the memos then, and we'll make sure we have it all covered. We're back around to Mr. Phil Johnson. If you could read the memo we got from Kevin McGee, environmental planner.
Sure. Can you pull it up?
She's working on it.
Got it.
You spoiled everyone with the last two applications, Jenny.
Thank you. September 5th, 2023 to Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission from Kevin McGee, environmental planner. RE coastal site plan, special permit modification, Eagle View Homes LLC, 405 Whitfield Street, Guilford, Connecticut, 06437, assessors map 28 lot 5. Eagle View Homes LLC proposes to move the approved public viewing area from the center of the southern portion of the property to the southwest corner of the property near the access road to the Guilford Yacht Club. The proposed relocated public access area still provides views of the tidal marsh system located within Whitfield Street, Seaside Avenue, the West River, with the public access viewing area being located closer to the public access way. There is more welcoming feel to the viewing area. The coastal resource policies applicable for the property are general coastal resources, coastal hazard area, tidal wetlands, and water dependent uses to meet consistency with the Coastal Area Management Act for constructing a non-water dependent use at the waterfront site. The applicant is required to provide this public access area. I recommend the following conditions of approval in order to make sure that the coastal resources are protected. 1, prior to the issuance of a certificate of zoning compliance, the public access area constructed and marked with approved public access signage and the public access easements and maintenance agreement will be conveyed to the town of Guilford. 2, all conditions of the January 5th, 2022 approval and the July 6th, 2022 approval remain in effect.
Thanks. Mr. Campaign, are you good with those stipulations?
Yes, of course. And so we actually have already gotten the easement for the old location. We will have to do a new easement for this new shape. But we're fine, obviously, with the public easements and maintenance agreement.
Thank you. We'll go to the next one with Mr. Sean Cosgrove.
To Planning and Zoning Commission, Janice Plesiak, a professional engineer, town engineer, dated September 5th, 2023, regarding 405 Whitfield Street, special permit site plan and coastal site plan application. I reviewed the revised plan for the above referenced property revision dated August 18th, 2023. The location of the viewing area is now proposed is less intrusive on the development property and may be used more by the public, since I'm assuming she's saying it does not require entering the backyards of the condo units. However, the view may not be as extensive. The commission will have to decide which location is preferred. Proper easements for public access will have to be granted as reviewed and approved by the town's attorney. Can you scroll? Yeah, thank you. The revision of the sidewalks and the handicap ramps along the access road have been reviewed, and I recommend the type 6 ramp posed adjacent to the front driveway to be replaced with a type 1 or 2 ramp per the CTDOT standard details. The detectable warning strips on all ramps also must be oriented in the direction of the crossing. A street excavation permit is required for the work performed within the town right of way of Whitfield Street. All prior conditions of approval shall remain in force.
Mr. Campaign, do you have any response to her stipulations?
Yeah, so we've updated all of the crossings to meet the new Connecticut DOT standards. They've updated them and we changed them all and submitted for approval from Janice as part of this exercise. I would like to, can I share a photo of the location just to,
Sure.
Oops, sorry. There we go. I think it's helpful. Okay. So I am standing right in the middle of what is the proposed, whoops, sorry. Are you seeing the photo? There we go.
It's loading.
Okay. No, something is going off on mine. I'm sorry. I did submit this.
I could get it for you.
Yeah, why don't you do that? My computer is not liking this at all. I'll stop sharing here. Okay. Yeah, Janique, if you could pull that up, that would be helpful. Yeah.
This photo?
Yes, there we go. So this is taken standing at my height, right in the center of what would be the proposed viewing platform. And the orange lull that you see off on the left-hand side is where the proposed, it would be closer to the water there. But basically, you know, the extent of the view, I think is almost exactly the same. As I said, it's the same elevation. So I just wanted to address, you know, that. I'm not sure where, you know, you actually see less of the seaside houses from this location. As you go further into the site, you see much more of the backyards and sort of the back areas of the Whitfield Street homes and the back of the Seaside Avenue homes. So in some ways, I think this is better. And then the little notch you see is where you can see the water. It's hard to see in this, but there's just a little bit of water that you can see in the distance there. And I think that's exactly the same in both locations. So thank you.
Where are the eagles' nests?
So the two highest trees on the right-hand side are where the two nests are. Yep, right. So that highest tree and then the one further to the right. That one, and nope, to the right. That one. Yep. So they've been sort of in both of those two locations over the last 2 years.
Russ, has this proposed site been moved back from where it was originally approved?
Back from what? Back from the water or back
from the water? Back from the water.
I guess as I think it's probably on a radius actually that, you know, so no, I think it's probably the same because it's a kind of a V toward the water. I think it's the same. It's probably closer to one of the two eagles' nests and probably maybe it's hard to say how it's related to the further of the two nests, but it is, I think, closer to the nearer of the two nests that they've moved into most recently.
Sitting on, I mean, if I'm sitting on a bench in this area,
yep,
if I'm looking to my left, I've got most of my view is the condo. Right?
Well, I mean, this is a very wide panorama. I mean, it's 180-degree panorama. So, yeah, if you're looking over your shoulder, you'd see the condos. You'd see that first condo. It kind of eclipses the rest of them because they step back. But I think that's similar when if you were to be on the other platform, you know, you'd see more of the condos because you could see past this first one.
All right. So the last memo that we have is the one in question from the Guilford Conservation Commission. Can we have Mr. Ted Sands do this one, please?
Well, I brought it up. Why not?
Sure.
September 1st, 2023, Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission, 405 Whitfield Street, special permit and coastal site plan modification. Dear members of Planning and Zoning Commission, The Guilford Conservation Commission at its August 26th meeting voted to object to the relocation of the approved public access viewing area. In reviewing the application, the commission feels that the new location as shown in the application changes the view of the tidal marsh and the view to the Eagle's Nest. Sincerely, Janice Ainsworth, Chairman. Guilford Conservation Commission.
Okay. With all those memos read, do we have any other questions from commissioners?
Quick
Yes,
one?
Mr. Sames. I saw Ted first, as always.
In one of the comments from the public about this proposal, there was an issue raised about having this thing right on the on Pages Lane, and the fact that that lane's not very wide, and if people are there and they park their cars on Pages Lane, it's going to be sort of a hazard. And the question is it possible to put one or two parking spaces off of Pages Lane that would be right next to or close to this viewing area, so that we don't, if there's some reason that a group wants to see the Eagle's Nest, that they don't block this one access road?
I mean, that's a very large request at this stage of the process to, we weren't providing parking in the original approval that we now have. The discussion is, that there's quite a bit of parking that's public across at the train station, and it really is a pedestrian frequented area. So I don't know that I can take that back. We actually had a plan that had some public parking along Whitfield Street that was felt as though it would be a danger to the traffic along Whitfield Street. We also came forward with a proposal to the town that was rejected. There's parking at the very end of Pages Lane. That's a gravel area that my clients own, and we proposed potentially that be given over to the town as a parking area associated with Pages Lane, and that was not even entertained. So I don't think that it's going to be easy for us to accommodate additional parking. It's a very tight site, and I feel it's pretty late in the process to to make a significant change like that. The aim is to get this approved so that we can get it installed and and get our C of Os for that first building as soon as possible. So,
Mr. Freeman.
So I live down there, and I take a walk or ride my bike down Pages Lane a lot, and to look at the Eagles, and also just to kind of look at the boats and stuff in the marina. And where the Eagles are is not where where this viewing places is not where people go to look at the Eagles. It's further down a good clip, right where the trees are, and people park down there, at random, and it doesn't seem to have affected access to the marina or access on the road at all. So I think if anything, people would most likely walk to that viewing space than to park there, because it's pretty close to the road. Just my experience with the whole place.
Great, thank you. Phil, did you have a question?
I guess it was, in my opinion, again, it's just my opinion, that this site is probably less desirable from a general public standpoint than the new proposed site. And what I had hoped is if something was going to be changed like this, that you might be able to offer kind of a significantly greater value in terms of the proposed site, as opposed to taking away from what was approved. But again, that goes to you all, and whether or not that's something you all want to consider, whether it's making it a little larger, or it's obviously right next to the road as opposed to out more in the marsh. I'm just trying to figure out a way to justify swapping out what I think you described as a pretty ideal site when you originally proposed it to this new site. And I do appreciate that things develop and there might be concerns that you presented. But I just put that out there.
I mean, from I don't think we are offering a lesser of the two, and I think it is a real concern as to whether that other location is going to be viewed as public or private. Yes, obviously, people in the know may go in there without issue, but people walking by, I think it's going to be less comfortable for people to utilize, less comfortable for public to utilize. So I think that that's a fairly significant item that's been identified that we're trying to correct. But as I said, easements have been drawn up for that other location. We've already submitted them to the town. They're on the deeds. That was the original intent. But I personally think it's going to be something that's would be an asset to the town to have it in this other location, something that would be better utilized and have people more comfortable, stay longer, and not feel observed. So,
yeah, my final comment is I think we're we've beaten the horse to death, and I think that this new location is not substantially different, not substantially enough to not approve it. And if it is more, and it seems to be, and Russ, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if the public and pedestrian access seems to be the most important aspect of this, not public parking. Pedestrian access, people walking down Whitfield Street, noticing this place, walking down Pages Lane and having a place to sit, maybe view some eagles. That sounds pretty good to me. And that's okay.
All right. Thanks. Kevin, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I sort of agree with Sean here. I don't really see a huge difference in the two locations. And actually, to me, now I will say this as a disclaimer, I'm not that familiar with the area. I have not been down there in a while, but it almost seems to me the new proposed location almost seems more intuitive, a better place for that to go. I'm going to say something different. I find it strange that, so Kevin McGee oversees the Conservation Commission. He goes to all the meetings. He's wrote a letter in favor of this, and then the Conservation Commission is objecting. It's rare that those two bodies are contrary to one another. And I agree with Sean that I do not want to belabor the topic, but I'd also wouldn't mind maybe fleshing out what the Conservation Commission concerns are, maybe a little bit more.
Well, we can go to.
I don't find them to be an objectionable bunch generally.
Yeah, I mean, their letter was so brief. It didn't flesh out anything.
No, and that's what I mean. I'd like to see, maybe. I mean,
I just what I don't want to do is belabor the app with question after question after question from a commission that if they had the opportunity to make a comment, they didn't make it.
Well, let's move towards public questions and comments then.
They made a comment, but they weren't specific.
Right. All right, so we'll open up to questions from the public. If anyone has a question, please raise their hand. I see Miss Jan Brissett. Could you state your name and address for the record, please? And ask your question. You're gonna have to unmute yourself though.
Sorry about that. Jan Brissett, I live at 95 Boston Street. I'm also, just full disclosure, president of the Unit Owners Association at the Guilford Yacht Club. And I think for the most part, all the owners that I've spoken to really want to support the development at the end of Whitfield Street. I know Thomas Brenner, who is a friend of mine. He, I think, sent a letter concerned about the parking. I wanted to say a few things. I was happy to see that despite this moving to the road, it's far enough from the stop sign that it didn't, if cars were parked there, and they will park there. I mean, we have cars parking in the middle of the driveway, which is a more dangerous spot, but it's closer to the Eagle's Nest. There are curves, blind curves. And people come from New Haven to see those eagles. It's not like they're going to be pedestrian. So I think we're going to have parking on the street either way. But it's far enough from the stop sign and not near a curve that it doesn't seem like if people do break the rules and park there, it would be a big hazard like it is further down. And I don't think that area is going to stop being a parking area just because there's a new viewing area. I think I like the idea of a sidewalk leading to this. I think it's important to talk a little bit about how this is going to be marketed as a, a public amenity, because if it's marketed as for pedestrians only, that would be very helpful. The one thing that I'm thinking, I'm reading Thomas Brenner's letter and I'm thinking about all this, having the viewing area way in, I think the way it was looked pretty, it looked like a good idea, but it allows cars to park and then leave their vehicle and walk away from their vehicle. Whereas it being on the street, I see somewhat an advantage with the cars parked there, that they could be told to move along. We could sort of monitor the area. And if cars are parked there for a prolonged period, they could be asked to move. I don't know how that would work, but it's better than just having cars parked and left, in my mind. Those were the comments. And I'd love to hear more about if the town has an idea of how they're going to market this to people, just to be sure that we're encouraging no cars.
Thanks. I know
Yeah.
that part of the application is that they have to have proper signage so that pedestrians walking on the street will know that it's available to them. But beyond that, that's unfortunately not part of the application. So certainly we can, if you call into the town office, they can probably direct you to the proper people to talk to make sure it's advertised, like you said. So let's continue to please do questions first. We'll have a opportunity for comments after that. Is there anyone else that would like to ask some questions?
I would.
Sure. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Allison Franks and my address is 313 South Union in Guilford. Are there plans to add additional signage on pages for no parking? Not about advertisement, but no parking signs on the road.
You're asking the applicant? We have not put the no trespassing signs up or have no plans for no parking to be put up in our package. We are working on a signage package and a wayfinding package. That's a separate application to the planning and zoning. So the graphic package is being put together right now. So that will have another application that's has some public input. But no, we didn't show them on our plan and we weren't planning to put no parking signs along that street unless requested.
Okay.
Russ, is Pages Lane, I mean, you mentioned that most of that is owned by the same owner. Is it private or public, or how is that?
Matt can talk to that. There's some, it is a private ownership with an easement, rights to pass and repass by the town and the yacht club. But the owner of this parcel 405 also owns the parcel across the street and the two halves that make up Pages Lane. So it's an easement that's been granted associated with it. So it is a private access.
Okay. Any other questions, please, first, and we'll have comments later. Mr. David Hall, could you please state your name and address for the record?
Dave, you're muted.
Yeah, you're gonna have to unmute yourself. Sorry.
Bottom left.
Okay, we got it.
Got it.
All right, David Hall, 456 Whitfield Street. So, first of all, I think that the guys are doing a great job down there building. But I'm still kind of questioning the move of the viewing station, considering where the eagle is now. There's a large maple tree right in front of the nest, so that from the proposed view stand, you really can't see the eagle nest. the other thing is, it seems like a lot of people are writing letters and making determinations without ever visiting the site to view this for themselves. And I'd be curious to know, what anybody's take on that might be. I think somebody from the Conservation Commission maybe actually went down and looked, judging by their letter, but I'm not sure about Mr. McGee.
Thank you. I'm not sure to speak to there.
Well, I'll speak to the maple tree. So both locations are obstructed during the summer months by that maple tree. The nest is actually, one tree behind, but both locations are equally obstructed. That's why people are going further down during the summer to see it. During the winter, it does open up, and when the leaves come off of that maple. But that is kind of equal for either of the two locations, in my opinion.
Mr. Howie?
I would suggest that the most appropriate viewing, or the best viewing opportunity for the Eagle's Nest, is actually at the top of the bridge. Steve McGuire, who has done years worth of photography on that area, continually perches there to see what to view the eagles from that position. So again, it's an interesting conversation to say where's the best place to see the nest. And from my experience watching Steve McGuire photograph that over the past 5 or 6 years, he's usually on the top of the bridge.
And
Thank you, Mr. Howie.
another suggestion, buy a pair of binoculars.
All right.
I do have another comment, if I could.
Yes, Ms. Harchin.
Yeah.
Just very quickly. It's the Connecticut Coastal Management Act that is requiring this mitigation essentially for lack of a water dependent use on the site. So it's not necessarily tied to the eagles, though they're important. It's mitigation required by the Coastal Management Act, just to clarify that.
I have a viewing platform of some sort.
Okay, any
Public
other
access.
questions from the public before we move on to comments? I'm not seeing any. Would anyone like to speak in support of this application? Yes, Mike and Ellen Ebert, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Ellen Ebert, 434 Whitfield Street. I'm sorry, I thought you said first there were questions, then comments. I have a comment,
Yep.
I think.
So I was asking for comments in support. Did you have a comment in support or against this application?
I have a maybe a compromise suggestion. It fits me.
Sure.
Well, if the view really is better further in, which from talking to a number of people in the neighborhood, it is, could there possibly be the viewing area with the benches by the street as Russ wants now, but maybe a little loop of a pathway or a walkway that goes around to the spot where it was before, so the people wouldn't necessarily be standing for a long time or intruding on the condos. But if they wanted to get a better view because of the trees, they'd have that opportunity. Just a suggestion.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Russ did speak to earlier about there was originally a loop road, a loop path proposed, but that actually for various reasons was not approved by some of the town staff.
But that was going to go all the way around back to Whitfield Street. I'm just talking about
Correct.
going as far as the original approval.
Got it. Great. Thank you for your comment. Anyone else that want to speak for this application? Then we'll get to those against. All right, we'll open it up to those that want to speak in opposition to this application. I see Mr. Nugent. Would you like to state your name and address for the record?
Yep, Joe Nugent, 98 Cedar Hill Road. I used to live south of the tracks for 43 years, and I'm quite familiar with the Eagles. I watched them come in one winter time and take apart my osprey nest to build their own. So I'm quite familiar with them. I want you to have the vision of an 8-year-old kid, boy or girl, with binoculars over their neck, trying to look at those eagles. If they're more towards the center of the property, they have a complete view of that entire wetlands, including the outside row of trees. If you keep on moving them towards the northwest, you're going to put them in the line of trees where their view is going to be limited. If you're if you're only 8 years old, trust me, the better view is where the present platform is, in my opinion.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in opposition to this application? Yes, Mr. Hall, state your name and address for the record, please, again, and you're gonna have to unmute again.
Yeah, okay, Dave Hall calling, David Hall from 456 Whitfield Street. I'm wondering if I could share my screen. Can we do that, or?
Yes, you can go ahead.
You should have that ability, yes.
So if I put a PDF up there, it'll pop up. Okay, so this is a plan of
You're gonna hit this,
Of-
you're gonna
of
have to
the
hit
co-
the share screen button
Can I hit
and
that already?
then choose the screen. Once you hit the button, you then have to choose the screen that is gonna show your screen. Usually it's called screen 1.
How's that?
It's
Yeah.
loading.
It's loading.
You click on the picture.
Well, do you see it or no?
No, we're not seeing it.
Still loading.
Screen share is loading, it says.
Okay. Any other comments while the picture is loading?
From me personally?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I do own a pair of binoculars, and even with the binoculars from the new location, I still cannot look through the leaves of that tree. But I'm fairly confident that from the original viewing area, the view is better, and I'll try to show that from here.
You could, I would suggest that you can email in the photo.
Well, let me do this. How do we get out of this? Just minimize it?
You just have to stop sharing.
Stop share. Oh, stop video, stop. It's just asking me for a new share.
There should be a red button that says stop share.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. All
Thank
right.
you.
So here we go.
All right.
I do have this. Sometimes you gotta go to the standby. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So I stood up here with my compass, my Boy Scout compass, or real compass, and I lined up with the corner of this piece of property, this building, and shot a angle there, came over here, shot an angle down there. All right. Colored it red. Then from here, I added a couple details where the proposed viewing area is, right in here, and where the existing viewing area is. Can we still all see that?
If you lift it up a little bit. Yep.
Okay, so that's the proposed area. That's the viewing area. And so from the proposed area, there is no view. Went down there with my binoculars, big maple tree is in the way. As I moved to this area, stood up here, you could start to see a little view of the nest without the maple tree being in the way. When I went over to my other location, which I lined up with the corner of the building, I had a much better viewing area. So as I moved towards the marina, the view got better and better and better. And this was where the existing viewing area is. This is the area that the design team said was the best area. And I agree. The only place that could be better would be moving down this way further towards the storage units, because those would be fantastic views. Now, there's no saying the Eagles coming back next year, but most likely it will. The other part is during the presentation, I think it was on 12:15 and maybe 1:05, the type of viewing area was discussed, and it was mentioned that this thing would be really nice and it would be similar in nature to what they did out in Chittenden Park. I don't want to sell the Guilford public short on something that became part of a salesman pitch to get this thing started and approved. And I see no reason to change. So yes, I'm against it. Thank you very much.
All right. Any other members of the public that would like to speak in opposition to this application? I'm not seeing any other hands raised. This might be a procedural question for, I don't know if Ann's ready for this, but Phil, you've been on a little bit longer than us. And Mr. Campaign, you can probably chime in as well. But if this is a modification of special permit, does it have the same 2 meeting rules that we typically have, or is we can do this in one? Anyone know the answer to that one?
I think it has to be waived. I think it's being treated because there's no application process actually for a modification in the Guilford zoning regulations. There isn't even an application.
It was more of a question, do we have to officially waive the second public hearing, or are we just standing on the idea that it's always been one? I see John shaking your head.
It is a special permit, so we have to vote to waive it. Waive the hearing.
All right.
But isn't it a modification of an already existing special permit?
Yeah, it's more kind of along the lines of what Russ is saying, that it's not necessarily spelled out specifically about modifications required.
Yeah,
John, do you have a comment?
Sure. So for the record, John Guskowski, Tyche Planning and Policy Group. I worked with Steve Natick and provided a little bit of planning services actually before Ann's predecessor, Jamie, was hired. And Steve asked me to sit in as part of the bridge to Ann's takeover of management of this commission. So yes, any modification to a special permit that changes the site plan supporting it requires a new special permit, which would therefore entail all of the hearing procedures. And so I would agree with Mr. Campaign that you can waive the second public hearing, but you would have to affirmatively do that.
We'd have to vote on. We have to vote on waiving the second hearing. That's what.
Okay.
So I will say though that the actual requirement for the public viewing area is associated with the coastal site plan approval and review, the CAM, not the special permit. There's no requirement within our special permit, which is under the Town Center South requirements for any public access. So although technically we have to update our special permit, the change is under the coastal site plan and the requirement is being dictated by the coastal site plan.
I think at this point I'm prepared to just, take care of it so that we don't have to worry about it in future. Mr. Freeman, comment or even a motion?
You're funny. No, it's more of a question that I think Ann mentioned before, something about the reason that this viewing platform is considered in general. And I don't believe it's for specifically for Eagles, is it? And isn't it just part of the process to create a public space?
Correct.
Yeah, when you have for the record, Ann Harchin, town planner, when you have a coastal use under the Connecticut Coastal Management Act, which is direct waterfront, which is not actually a water dependent use. In this case, it's new condos. There is a stipulation in the state statute that allows a municipality to require a public access easement, some type of mitigation for the fact that you're using a waterfront parcel for a non-waterfront use. So while it's great that it's located within the realm of where these eagles are nested, it's not actually linked to that use.
I think being closer to the street, it would encourage more public use of the view of the marsh. And so I'm more inclined to want to encourage
first we
people to
would-
go and sit there.
So in this occasion, we would need a 3/4 vote to waive a second public hearing on this item. Is there anyone that
Sorry.
would want to?
Scott,
Yes.
before you continue, we do have
Sure.
two public comments that were submitted in writing.
Okay.
Do you want to read that before you vote?
Sure.
Okay,
You want to bring them up?
sure.
And Mr. Bill Freeman, I haven't heard from you yet.
Oh, lucky tonight.
There we go.
To Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission from Thomas Brenner, CYCUOA, owner C6N, reference PC application Eagle Home Subdivision 405 Whitfield Street, dated 8/20/23, for inclusion in the September 6th public hearing. Commissioners, as an owner of property adjacent to the project, I reviewed the applicant's materials regarding the alteration and repositioning of the public outlook on the approved site plan, and would like to offer a few comments. As I understand it, during the approval process, the developer of Eagle Homes defined, but perhaps did not dedicate an area on the site plan as a public outlet. In so doing, this allowed for public amenity. The public sharing of a view shed can be a benefit to the town. The public outlook was shown on the original drawing about 100 feet inside the project, some distance from Pages Lane, and accessed by development's private driveway. It's not clear to me how the outlook was, as originally envisioned, affected a second egress for the development, nor is it clear if there was any dedicated parking for the amenity. However, it does appear that there was open space around the outlook, a place where a bicycle or car might stop off the road. The revised plan now shows the public outlook adjacent to the road and bounded by the east by a new secondary egress from the development. No dedicated parking or open space adjacent to the amenity is depicted. The presumption is that if you drive, you leave your car on Pages Lane. Pages Lane is a narrow private two-way street that functions as a shared driveway connecting the Guilford Yacht Club to the Whitfield Street. Be simple with parts controlled by easements and encroachments. Pages Lane is used by walkers, bikers, trucks, and cars. Some users are careful and courteous, some are not. The traffic can get congested, especially when Guilford Yacht Club is hosting weddings. Indeed, the new egress to the right of way is problematic. The easement of record must clearly describe how use rights are allocated. I trust someone has researched this, as I have not. Whenever a change is considered, there are pros and cons. The cons here are obvious. We are putting an attraction beside a busy driveway without providing safety buffer. If only one car parks to enjoy the sights, it becomes an obstruction and potential hazard. And there is some irony when the pros sharing view shed providing a peaceful outlook and a place for public to enjoy solitude and nature can be a benefit, but making the view more accessible by putting it into the role is simply self-defeating. I believe the new Eagle View subdivision will be a benefit to the neighborhood and the entire Guilford community. I appreciate the attempt to not wall in our views to provide outlets so public can enjoy nature, but these changes to the plan don't foster that vision. And I ask you to deny this. Thank you for the opportunity to participate, Thomas Brenner.
Thank you. And Mr. Philip Johnson, can you take this one?
Dear members of the board, this note is in regards to the viewing platform on the Whitfield property. I have a suggestion that could be a solution to the issues of parking and public viewing of the Eagle's Nest just behind the newly constructed condos. The Eagle's Nest is a particularly popular attraction in Guilford and rather unique in the state of Connecticut. The comeback of the bald eagle is something to be celebrated and shared, but the parking has always been an issue to view the nest. And I'm certain the homeowners will not appreciate the public in their backyard. I'm not sure if this is feasible, but why not put up a streaming Eagle Cam that can be shared not only with Guilford, but the world. I would think the developers of the property would find this a cost-effective way to make everybody happy. Obviously, there is the cost of the camera, the internet, and the installation. But has this been discussed at all? Lori Shaw, 37 Wilderwood Drive, Guilford.
Great, thank you. So the first issue at hand is whether commission feels that a second public hearing is necessary on this item. If not, would anyone like to make a motion to waive the second public hearing?
I'll make a motion that we waive the second public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sean. Any discussion?
Sorry, Philip Johnson. I personally, I mean, I live near there. I'd like to go at least walk and see the two sites that we're looking at, because while I kind of know it, I don't feel comfortable voting to approve something if I haven't actually gone out there. And I think this is fairly significant until I've actually gone out there and seen it myself. That's where I stand on that.
Yeah, Mr. Sands?
I would like to have a second hearing here, and I'd like to have the Conservation Commission come and explain why they're opposing this.
Okay. Any other discussion? Kevin Clark, did you have?
I agree with both Phil and Ted's comments.
All right. Any other discussion? So there's a motion on the table. There's a second. Bob Harrington, yes or no to waiving the second public hearing?
Can I abstain, basically because I don't completely understand the ramifications of the vote, as it's my first session?
So the only ramification is either there's going to be a second public hearing or there wouldn't be, and then we would work towards deliberation this evening.
And you represent our quorum, Bob, so you gotta step up.
You gotta say something.
Then I'm gonna have to vote no on that, just because I need to make sure I understand it better to do that. And the second hearing would help me do that. Perhaps in the future that may change, but for now I'm gonna have to vote no.
Understood. Kevin Clark.
No.
Ted Sands.
No.
Bill Freeman.
Yes.
Philip Johnson.
No.
Sean Cosgrove.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Motion does not carry with 3/4. So there will be a second public hearing on this item. And honestly, I forget out of nowhere whether we vote to continue. Is that something we normally do? I can't even remember. I don't think so.
I think it's automatic.
I think it's just automatically continuing.
It just goes over to the next meeting.
All right, so so some homework for Anne is to connect us with the conservation, and homework for all of you guys is to go out and look at it, I guess.
Definitely will.
Thank you, Mr. Campaign, for your work tonight. We'll
Thank
move
you.
on to the next item on the agenda, which is State Street Developers LLC, State Street, map 54, lot 5, zone MU-OS, modification of existing special permit to change the grading of the looped portion of the roadway, allowing for basements. Who do we have here for this application?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Ryan McAvoy. I'm a licensed professional engineer with SLR, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant.
Great.
With your permission, may I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. One moment. Okay, this plan, if you can see it, please let me know.
Yep, just load it up.
Okay, great. This plan in front of you represents our site plan modifications that we're presenting this evening. This plan is our layout and landscaping plan, which I wanted to start with because it is, for all intents and purposes, identical to the layout and landscaping plan that this commission approved in 2001. We have 25 single-family residential units in a variety of configurations, either in 3-unit configurations, duplexes, or single-unit buildings off a looped road coming off of State Street. And this plan does not have any elevations associated with it, but it does show the location of the units, which is identical to what you had previously. Landscaping buffer plantings are identical to what you had previously. And road configurations are also identical to previous approvals. The next plan in our set represents our grading and utilities plan, which we do have some minor modifications associated with this configuration in terms of the elevations of the units and the elevations of the looped portion of the road. So as the original application was presented, these buildings, these units did not have basements included. The reason for that is we do have a fairly shallow groundwater condition on this site. The underlying soils consist primarily or almost exclusively of sand and gravel. So we did have concerns about placing basements into that layer of material, particularly if they were going to be set below the groundwater elevation. The site is very flat, so positive discharge for footing drains would be very challenging. As the project progressed and our client looked to market these units, it was challenging to find potential buyers who weren't in need of a basement. So we looked at the groundwater elevations on the site. We looked at the elevation of our road and elevation of our units, and we're able to determine that if we elevate this road, this looped portion of the road, by about a foot, and change the relationship between the garage floor and the finished floor on the buildings by adding a step or two to their relationship, that we could set the basement elevations for these units at or above the maximum groundwater elevation based on our monitoring in the 2021 wet season. In terms of the grades behind the units, they will be identical to what was previously approved. And we're going to achieve that by essentially having a little bit more exposed foundation and siding on the back of the units with full windows in the basements. So there won't be as much change in grade on the rear side. And on the front side, again, the road is about a foot higher than what was previously approved. And the relationship between the garage floor and the finished floor is a foot different from what was previously shown. So that pretty much sums up the changes that we're seeking. Again, there's no changes in the unit count, no changes in unit locations, no changes in the road configuration or buffer plantings, no changes in stormwater management, no additional impervious surfaces. So we hope that this modification is deemed to be relatively minor in nature. We did get approval from the Wetlands Commission for the change because some of these units are located within the upland review area of the wetlands on site. And we're hoping that if this approval is granted, then we can start constructing these units in the very near future.
Thank you. Anne, were you able? Sorry, Sean. I was going to throw it to Anne and see if she was able to review this application.
Yes, I did take a look at it. I think a foot of grade change elevation isn't significant at all over the entire site.
But the foot of grade change, and I'm not objecting to all of this. I just want to understand it. The foot of grade change is to the road, correct?
Yes, if I may jump in. The foot of grade changes to the road, which will allow the garage floors to be lifted in a similar manner to the road, which in turn allows us to raise the what would be the basement elevation if approval is granted. So the whole effort is to lift the center portion of the site so we can lift the garages, so we can then lift the floor elevations up.
Okay, so the elevation of the entire site, all the units will rise.
Yes.
So
the front of the units.
You said your groundwater elevations were based upon 2021?
Yeah, we monitored groundwater throughout the spring season in 2021, and we were able to establish maximum groundwater elevations in the area.
Was that, was that a drought year?
Not particularly.
I was about to say, it's nothing compared to this year. I mean, this, I mean, I'd be curious to find out what the differences are between last year and this year in
Well,
terms of.
Yeah, we do have, construction's been ongoing on the property, and some, based on the original approval. And, to the extent that there's been excavation on site, there's not much, but we haven't found any significant deviation in groundwater from what was found in 2021. And also all the basements will include sump pumps as a belt and suspenders practice. But it was really our design goal to try to get these basements at or above groundwater levels, just to prevent any potential problems down the road. But they will have some pumps. There are a few units that will be able to have a gravity footing drain. It's not our logic for raising the road and raising the floor elevations is to try to minimize any potential interaction between groundwater and the basement floors.
Some pumps are great until the power goes out.
Agreed. Well, that's why we want to elevate them. That's why we want to elevate these buildings. That is absolutely our logic.
Thanks. As you know, this property backs up to a number of existing homes that are along State Street. Can you speak to anyone that might be worried about stormwater flow towards their properties?
And I think I'll go back to my prior testimony where the rear of the units, the grades on the rear side of all the units around the perimeter, including the west side, is unchanged from our previous approval. So our grade change is entirely located within the center portion of the property. All the properties to the west drain towards this site, and we are continuing to allow that drainage pattern to continue through a gentle swale that will allow runoff to exit the properties to the west onto the site, and then towards the wetlands where they presently discharge today. So we're not changing any drainage patterns that currently exist from properties on the west side of our site, and we're not elevating the buildings any further than what was previously approved on the west side of our units here. So really, there's no change in the area between our buildings and the property line from our prior approval.
Any other questions from commissioners? Not seeing any there. Great. If we could have you unshare your screen so we can see a little bit more of everyone's smiling faces.
Okay. I would add, unless there's any objection from the commission, we would request, I wasn't aware of your 2 public hearing requirement or procedure. So we would request, unless there's any objection, to waive the second public hearing if there's no major concerns from the commission or public.
Understood. Thanks. We do have one memo from town staff. And I'll ask Mr. Kevin Clark to read this one in, please.
Okay, to Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission, Kevin McGee, environmental planner, RE special permit modification, State Street Developers, State Street. State Street Developers LLC proposes minor modifications to the grading plan to increase the elevation of the loop road by approximately 1 foot to allow for basements in the units. Proposed work does not increase the impervious surface of the site or require changes to the stormwater management system that was already approved. Sedimentation and erosion control measures have been installed at the property and are being inspected weekly by SLR engineers who provides reports to the Inland Wetlands Commission. Guilford Inland Wetlands Commission approved modifications to the State Street Developers LLC, State Street, map 54, lot 05 for regulated activity for raising the loop of the access way by 1 foot and all buildings to have basements within 100-foot jurisdiction review zone. I recommend that the following previous conditions of approvals remain in effect for this modification. 1, a licensed engineer shall oversee the installation of the stormwater management system. The licensed engineer shall provide a final report to the zoning enforcement officer. 2, the town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. 3, to assure future compliance of the stormwater management system in accordance to section 273-75.f of the zoning code. A written maintenance and operation manual for all stormwater management systems located at the subject site. The manual should provide provisions for a yearly inspection, maintenance of the stormwater system, and yearly reports to the town engineer. The maintenance schedule should include, but not be limited to weekly, monthly, and quarterly inspections of the property for litter, monitoring the dumpster and outside storage areas, monitoring of the catch basins, removal of accumulated material and non-native invasive species in the detention basin, and energy dissipator. The maintenance plan needs to provide a statement that the stormwater management plan will be reviewed annually so that inspection, maintenance requirements may be modified and that any changes to the plan would require the approval of the town engineer. B, an as-built drawing of the completed stormwater system prepared in accordance with section 273-75.f, stormwater management subsection 6. C, the applicant shall file a maintenance covenant on the land records as required by section 273-75.f, stormwater management section, subsection 7 of the town of Guilford zoning code.
Thank you.
Got it.
All right, any final questions from commissioners before we open up to the public? All right, well, first ask for questions, please, questions only, and then we'll move on later to comments. Does anyone have a question that they would like of the applicant? All right, great. Let's move on to anyone that wants to speak in support of this application. And now we'll move to anyone who wants to speak in opposition to this application. All right. Seeing no public comment, would any commissioner like to make a motion to waive the second public hearing on this item?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Phil. Any conversation? All right, we'll move to a vote. Bob Harrington.
This one, I actually visited it on the Wetlands Commission, so I will vote yes, because I understand this application.
Great, thank you. Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I will also vote yes. I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing on this item.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Sean. Second from Ted Sands. Bob Harrington,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I'll also vote yes. We'll try to deliberate on this evening. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you very much.
All right, that will end the public hearing portion of our meeting, and we'll move on to a regular meeting. First thing we'll do is deliberate on public hearing items. Does anyone have a motion that they would like to make related to 54 Water Street?
I did not find one submitted.
Wait. I think I have one here.
I didn't see one either. Did I miss that?
It got emailed.
Let me I have one for 54 Water Street. I'll make the motion.
Great.
Yeah, okay. No, wait a second. I'm sorry, this is
All right, well, let's just bring it up. Journey, can you bring it up, please? And someone feel like making a motion?
You bring it up, I'll read it.
I'll second it.
I'll read anything.
Thing.
It's frustrating.
That the interim planner left one for me.
I can bring it up.
Can I just say while we're doing this, that I am really happy that John is still here and that he and Steve have met with Ann to make this transition as smooth as possible. I just wanted to, it's probably not a good time to say it, but I just wanted to throw it in there. I just think it's a very important transition.
Scott, would you like me to read this?
Yes, someone should make a motion, yes.
Okay, voted, the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approved the special permit constructs a two-car garage and accessory dwelling unit with a footprint above 750 square feet. Applicant Ryan P. and Aaron M. Conley, location 54 Water Street, map 32, lot 71, zone R3. The approved plans are the zoning location and site plan property of Ryan P. and Aaron M. Connolly, 54 Water Street, Guilford, Connecticut, prepared by Eric G. Anderson, LS, dated revised 7/14/23, excuse me. Architectural plans.
We
shows
have
that
the
they weren't
architectural plans, we'll
Yeah,
fill
so
in the correct name of the plans.
Yep, so we'll fill that in. The application is approved with the following conditions. The applicant shall file with the town clerk an original copy of the special permit approval to be provided by the Planning and Zoning Department, and shall furnish written evidence of a Planning and Zoning Department that the document has been recorded. A final digital copy, single file PDF, and one printed hard copy of the approved plan shall be submitted to the Planning and Zoning Department prior to the issuance of a zoning permit for construction. The town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and or hay bales per approved plan. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or substantial material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. Okay, 5, the town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect the underground infiltration system upon installation. And A2 grade final as built survey shall be submitted for all proposed structures, other improvements prior to issuance of the final certificate of zoning compliance by the zoning enforcement officer. This application is approved based upon the finding that it conforms to the zoning code and plan of conservation and development. The approval shall become effective 15 days after the publication of the leading notice of the decision and upon filing of the special permit certificate with the town clerk.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr.
thank
Chairman,
you.
if I may interject
Tom.
for a second, please.
Sure.
I just want to revise on that approval letter that the latest plan is revised to August 24th of 2023.
Yes, we will definitely get the correct plan name on there.
Thank you very much.
Duly noted.
All right, any discussion? Share. All right, on favor, Bob Harrington,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Aye.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I will also vote yes. Good luck on your project, Mr. Anderson.
Very
All
much.
right. I will also entertain a motion for 144 Birch Grove, please. If I need to bring it up, I can.
Bring it up.
Bring it up.
Bring it on.
I thought I had it up, but I don't.
Oh,
1 second.
well,
Please hold.
I'll try to. See if I can beat it.
Janique, if you got it and you want to beat me.
Gone.
Is
Do we
it,
not have one? This might not have been on your list, John.
is it Water Street?
No, it's 144 Birch. I don't see it in the list of the ones that you sent to us, John.
I don't remember this one.
No, neither do I.
No, it's not
All
Birch.
right. Okay, does anyone
how
feel
about-
like they can
Scott,
make
you
a
want me to wing
motion on
one?
the fly?
You want me to wing one?
Yes, please.
Oh, yes.
The Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission votes to approve
It's a coastal site plan.
coastal site plan application to raise the height of the existing single-family home and modify existing decks to comply with FEMA regulations. The address is 144 Birch Grove, map 13, lot 22, zone RS2.
Well done.
Second.
You're gonna add in all the prerequisite plans, I assume, and any stipulations from town staff that we've already read into the record.
Please.
Perfect. All right, and then who got the second?
Kevin.
Me.
That was
Kevin, me.
No,
Kevin.
nope.
Janique says Kevin. I'm going with Janique on that one. Sorry. All right, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go with a vote. Bob Harrington,
Aye.
Kevin Clark,
Aye.
Ted Sands,
Aye.
Bill Freeman,
I as well.
Philip Johnson,
I guess I'm gonna go with aye.
Sean Cosgrove.
Yes.
Yeah, you always
I
have to
knew
be
it.
different, don't you, Sean? And I'll also vote yes. Mr. Harrison, good luck with your second application there.
Saw that coming without binoculars.
All right. Do we have a motion for the State Street developers? I believe we do. This one I
Yes.
can actually bring up. All right. Have at it, someone.
Take it.
I'll take it. Voted.
No, I got it.
You got it?
Voted that the
Okay, go Ted.
voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a modification of the existing special permit to change the grade of the loop portion of the roadway, allowing for basements. Applicant State Street Development LLC, address State Street, map 54, lot 5, zone MU-OS. The approved plans are 1, State Street Residential Development, State Street, Guilford, Connecticut, prepared by SLR, dated revised August 11th, 2023. The applicant is approved with the following conditions. The application shall file with the town clerk an original copy of the special permit approval to be provided by the Planning and Zoning Department, and shall furnish written evidence to the Planning and Zoning Department that the document has been recorded. A final digital copy, single file PDF, and 1 printed hard copy of the approved plan shall be submitted to the Planning and Zoning Department prior to issuance of a zoning permit for construction. Can you move it up? 3, the town of Guilford enforcement officers shall be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil stockpiles shall be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales per the approved plan. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. 4, an A-2 grade final as-built survey shall be submitted for all proposed structures and other improvements prior to issuance of a final certificate of zoning compliance by the zoning enforcement officer. 5, all conditions approved the special permit application shall remain in effect. This application is approved based on the finding that it conforms with the zoning code and plan of conservation and development. This approval shall be effective 15 days after the publication of the legal notice of decision and upon a filing of the special permit certificate with the town clerk.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Any discussion? Seeing none. Bob Harrington,
I will say aye with confidence on this one.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I will also vote yes. All right, that is approved. We are going to continue with our regular meeting. The next item on our agenda is Todd K. Anderson, Engineering and Surveying Associates, 539 Boston Street, map 49, lot 10A, zone R3, subdivision and coastal site plan to officially establish a lot as part of the Sonzoni property, continued from August 2nd, 2023.
Good evening, everyone. Again, Todd Anderson, Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates, 1054 Boston Post Road here in Guilford. I originally submitted an application. This was a property left over from the subdivision of the Sonzoni property. There was a area of property to the rear of the subdivision that was left over. We came before you last month to deem this property as a buildable lot. You guys were desiring a fee in lieu of open space. My client was not able to sell the property and for even what he bought it for. And then you guys wanted to tax him $9,800 on the property. There is excess land there, so we are coming back before you with a 2-lot subdivision. We have modified the application. We have 2 zone complying lots that we are proposing to do back there now. I submitted the plans to the town last week as a modification to my application. There has been a little bit of back and forth between myself and town staff as to how to handle this. So I'm coming before you tonight proposing the modification to the plans for 2 lots as opposed to 1. There were comments about withdrawing this application or going forward with the application as 1 lot and then coming back in with a new application. I feel I can modify this application and state that there are going to be 2 lots. Engineering.
Todd, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes,
and has town staff had the chance to review the updated drawings?
Very minimally.
I will attest to the fact that it is my second day on the job. I reviewed the subdivision regulations this afternoon. My reading of the regulations are that both the town engineer and the director of the health department need to review the plans prior to your voting on them, and they have not done so.
So it's your...
which is why I am proposing that we continue this to your next meeting to give the engineering and Department of Public Health a chance to review the plans. But I had comments from town staff where maybe I should withdraw this application and come in with a new application, which I don't think that I really have to do a new application. I think I can do a modification of it, but continue it to the next meeting and give engineering and public health a chance to review the plans and make their comments. We do fit the zoning 100%.
And do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, just one comment, and I have not double checked this, but the memo left to me by the interim town planner indicated that you are essentially out of time on this application, which is why I suggested that a withdrawal and a resubmission would be an appropriate move.
John, do you want to speak to that further, please?
Yeah, my understanding, again, John Guskowski, Take Planning and Policy Group. The memo and calculation provided by Steve Natick, the interim town planner, indicated that through September 6th, today, 56 of the possible 65 extension days have been burned. So you basically have 9 days of total extension, which would not take you to your next meeting. Which is why the recommendation from Steve Natick, the interim town planner, was essentially denial.
So what you're suggesting is that we can't actually continue this, that we have to.
Unless you schedule the special
Let me
meeting
ask a
for
question.
this applicant.
Can the applicant request an extension?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
The extensions have been requested, and it was extended to this meeting, burning all but 9 days of the
So that we
available
can't
statutory extensions.
extend again.
I mean, the only way to do that is just, I mean, Todd, just withdraw and just reapply. I mean, that's the easy way to go.
I believe I can grant a 30-day extension beyond what we already have.
That's what I thought.
I have extended within the first allowable time period, but I feel that I can extend again another 30 days beyond what I have already extended within the first allowable time.
So John, what is your reading of that?
I'll be honest with you, I don't have Steve's math on this, but the memo said 56 days have been utilized to get us to September 6th.
So Todd, here's our problem. If you're wrong, and we only have the 9 days, and if we don't act on it, then it becomes automatically approved, which I think would work out great for you, but not be so great for us.
Right. So I mean,
we are still working within the first allowable time period. I am allowed to extend.
I mean, you can request an extension, but it seems like the temperature of the commission is not.
Yeah, we're
sorry, Todd.
For you an extension. I'm sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
So, yes, you can request an extension from us, but it seems like the temperature of the commission is not to grant that at this time.
Okay.
If that is the case, then would you like to withdraw your application?
Ted, what do you think?
Yeah, I was about to say, Rome food.
If that's the case, Todd, would you like to withdraw your application and reapply with no prejudice or any of that?
If that's where we're going, then absolutely.
Okay.
A good idea, Todd.
So
let's just restart the clock. And
I have a question. I'd
Yes,
like somebody to
Mr.
look into this so that we know, because this has kind of come up in the past, and we're always a little, wiggly around the edges on it. I want to know if you can
We'll have
get
it
an,
settled.
if he was entitled to an extension, I would have granted it, no problem.
Yeah.
It's a request, technically.
I will
But-
definitely look at the ordinance and see what the current ordinance says, but also relay what the new ordinance says. I don't know if it's different.
Thank you. All right. Let's move on to the next item. Blaze Pickle LLC, 900 Boston Post Road, map 47, lot 22B, zone SC, site plan application to re-tenant the existing commercial building and establish a temporary pickleball business. At the same time, let's please, should we do it at the same time, or should we do two separate applications?
Do we have to vote to accept his withdrawal? Because I don't ever feel like
no, we do not.
Yeah.
I think we should probably do that.
Sure, we can.
That's what we should
I
do.
didn't
And
hear a formal withdrawal. I didn't hear it.
It has to be submitted to the town.
Well, then we,
I don't think we have to vote on it, Phil.
I mean, we can, that's fine. Doesn't hurt. You wanna make a motion, Phil,
I'd like to make a motion that
to accept the withdrawal of?
to accept the withdrawal from Todd Anderson regarding the Sanzoni, the subdivision of the Sanzoni property, in order to resolve timing conflicts and allow a submitted clean application.
Second.
Thanks. Bob Harrington, do you want to abstain because you haven't been involved in this yet?
I will say aye with this because I understand what's happening and it makes sense.
Got it. Thank you. Kevin Clark,
Aye.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove.
Aye.
And I'll also vote yes. All right. Again, my question stands from either John or Ann. If you, I don't know the extent of this, or is this two different? Can we see this as as one application, or do we need to have it as two separates?
I believe it's two separate applications because one is an interim use and the other one is the final actual.
All right, then we will just go with Blaze Pickle, as I said. Who's here to represent that application? Yep, if you want to unmute yourself.
You're muted, Jim.
There you go.
There you
Thanks.
go.
Hi, yes, I'm Jim Berta, co-owner of Blaze Pickle LLC, located at 900 Boston Post there in Guilford. Also with me at the meeting is Quinn Howe. He's the majority owner that's also here as well to answer questions. And we're applying for a temporary change of use to Assembly Group A3 and submitted a site plan review. I certainly can go through the nature of the business or answer any questions that would be prudent for anybody.
The only question that comes to mind for me, I think a lot of it is self-explanatory. Basically, you're trying to use the space as temporary to play pickleball, correct?
Correct.
Are you going to be using the restroom facilities? And I think in a previous application, we talked about how the sewage facilities were going to, I forget what the term was really, but they were kind of they were set in a state of hiatus until a new use was used. And maybe John can help speak to this. Is there anything I have to worry about with related to the septic system for this use, temporary use?
I think I can even speak to that potentially, but if John's someone
Sure,
official.
go for it. We'll go with you first.
Well, I mean, I'm saying all the right language, but I know that there was originally needed the CTDEEP approval, which we did, which was received.
Okay.
And then the health approval came as well. So those both went through just this past week.
Great. Any other questions from commissioners?
How many courts?
So we'll have 12 indoor courts.
Nice.
All right, we do have a memo from Steve Natick that if we could pull up, and we'll go, who do we got? Sean Cosgrove, get this one for us.
How can I do it, Scott?
A lot of reading today.
When I first saw that pop up on the thing, I thought it was going to be a pickle facility. Honestly, I did. I was like,
Plastic is on the move.
Factory.
Yeah, like question. It doesn't specifically say whether this is for.
Thank you, Janique.
Okay.
You expanded a little bit? Okay.
The only thing, Janique, is that this says it's for the Target application. Do we have any memos for the Blaze application?
No,
Yes, we do. I'm sorry. I went.
Oh, okay.
Now.
There was
And
not
so-
a staff memo from Steve on this.
So
He-
Steve memos is related to Target as well. His memo doesn't actually stipulate. It just says that.
Yeah, no, this is John Guskowski. Steve relayed to me that there was no motion provided, that this is just temporary use, change of use, and he had no comments or objections.
Okay, all right. And we don't have any memos to read. And this is not a public hearing, so any other questions from commissioners, or do we feel comfortable making a motion?
I'm
And if
comfortable
so,
making a motion.
all right, Mr. Johnson, since you're the aficionado here for us on pickleball.
Assuming there isn't one already.
I don't think so.
Voted, Blaze Pickle LLC, 900 Boston Post Road, map 47, lot 22B, zone SC. Site plan application to re-tenant existing commercial building and establish temporary pickleball business.
Okay. That's to approve, I assume. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Thanks, Ted. All right. Bob Harrington,
Aye.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Aye.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I will also vote yes. Jim, when do you think this goes? When do you think you get started?
The courts are going to be laid the last week of September, so our hopes are to have a grand opening weekend, October 7th and 8th. So that's when we would have our, final inspection or allow room if there's anything. But we did have inspectors on site. They were kind enough to meet with us ahead of time to walk us through and make sure we're really prepared. And we're not really doing too much to the site, which is good. It makes it very, very simple and stays actually in even better specs than the former Walmart as far as parking use and things of that nature. But that is the goal. October 8th and 9th opening weekend.
Well, Jim, you can expect Mr. Johnson to be at the front door.
Yeah, we've been really well received so far with people excited about it. So we look forward to being there.
Good.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Next item on our agenda is Target Corporation, 900 Boston Post Road, map 47, lot 22B, zone SC, site plan application to re-tenant the existing commercial building with the retail use and make associated traffic and pedestrian site improvements. Who do we have for this application?
Yeah, hi, good evening. This is Dean Apostolaris. I'm here representing the application with Kimley Horn and Associates. We are at 1 North Lexington Avenue, Suite 505 in White Plains, New York. Joining me here this evening is Mr. Joe Mayhew, Principal Architect at Target Corporation, as well as Aaron Hemquest, also at Target Corporation. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, if that's all right.
That's great. And thank you for sitting through all the rest of that this evening.
Thank you.
No problem at all. And kudos to this group for remaining spry and lively throughout the entirety of this meeting. Let me know when you can see this on my screen.
Yep, you're good.
We're all
We
set.
got
Okay.
it. We got it.
Awesome. So yeah, here this evening, we're here to talk about some of the site improvements that we're doing here to the to the Shoreline Plaza Shopping Center, as associated with the re-tenanting of the westernmost tenant space from its current vacant state, previously a Walmart, to now a proposed Target retail center. So walking you through here, most of our improvements are limited to pedestrian and vehicular circulation with respect to signage, bollards, vehicle calming, and an addition of some drive-up stall installations here. So I'll just briefly kind of go through. It's a rather simple site plan, and so I won't belabor it too much here. But most of our improvements along the front of the store entrance here are associated with, like I said, traffic calming measures, as well as removing this sort of glass entryway and flattening the facade of the building to open up the entire facade to sort of be one level horizontally. Along the drive aisle here in the front of the store, we are proposing to restripe a large crosswalk area and place associated large Target bollards. You may have seen them before, large red circular bollards at the store entrance. Also a speed hump here to prevent, speeding through this drive aisle. We're also proposing pedestrian signage, flashing pedestrian signage to be sure that, all pedestrians are being maneuvered into the front entrance of the store in a safe manner, and vehicles are being, warned and cautioned that pedestrians are crossing. We're also proposing stop signs, stop bars, and lettering along this main drive aisle too, to increase the safety factor along that main drive aisle. Moving further west here, we're proposing an additional speed hump to also act as a traffic calming measure. And as we round the corner of the building on the western side here is where we get into sort of the more nuanced improvements of the site as they relate to Target specifically. So you may have seen Target stores before where they have a drive-up installation. This allows passengers to come and pick up orders that they've made online, drive up, an employee from the store will come and meet the shopper outside in their vehicle and put the item in their vehicle, and allows them to basically place an online order, arrive to the store, and have an employee come and drop off an item that they purchased and have the customer drive off. So here we're proposing 12 of those drive-up stalls. Each of those drive-up stalls come with an associated sign at the head of the stall, and I can go through the signage plan in a little bit more detail later in the presentation. In addition to that, on the western side here, we're also proposing a 6-foot wide crosswalk. Typically, we're assuming employees to park in this western parking area here. It's typically, not an area where customers are naturally parking unless there's, extreme overflow. So we're providing for a little bit of a safer manner for employees to navigate and enter into the actual interior of the building. And so that's really the nature of the site improvements. I can open it up for questions, or Joe, Aaron, if you guys have anything to add on, please do so. But yeah, free to open it up for questions.
Sure, I saw Bob first. Bob.
Can you go a little more northward here on this map? So yeah, I believe.
Oh yes,
they're putting up. No, not there. In the parking there, in this area where you between 11 and 15, isn't there a bank being put in there currently?
Yes.
Right where 15
there is. I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong.
Okay. Just making sure that was understood, because
Yep.
right.
Kind of a big.
I have a question. Have you guys thought about any charging stations in the parking area?
Good evening. This is Aaron Hemquist with Target. We have, we're actually in discussions with a couple of national vendors that do EV installations. So that is something that we're currently reviewing. We would also need to confirm that with the property owner, who is our landlord, but that is something that we are looking at right now.
Right. Make sure they have enough power available.
That's one of the big problems these days is just getting enough power for those fast charging stations. But it is something we're looking at.
Yeah, at the very least, you could think about prepping for it, right? Which is more what the requirement is these days, and not necessarily that you install them right away. Mr. Johnson, did you have a question?
No, I was just wanted to make sure that they're aware about the bank.
No. Phil wanted to find out where they're going to have any pickleball courts.
Yeah. No, are you guys going to maintain some pickleball courts?
Yeah.
Doesn't really. It's not really our bailiwick, unfortunately. Sorry.
Okay, Dean, if you wanted to continue with your presentation.
Sure. So I can move into a little bit of more discussion about signage. So we have some pretty target specific signage that we're proposing on the property. And I'm going to move to an architectural rendering plan that sort of identifies those in a little bit of an easier manner. So as you can see here, this is the front of the store. Some of the more target specific signage that we have is specifically related to the drive up and the wayfinding signage for those drive up stalls on the western side of the building. So on the front of the building here, we have a drive up stall sign. And if I go back to our civil site plan, that can be noted here. So it's placed there specifically to allow for drivers who are navigating into the shopping center to be able to see that sign and know that if they're there to pick up a package for the drive up station specifically, they're directed properly, and they're moved down here. Further towards the west of the site, we have what Target calls a drive up beacon. And this beacon is a little bit more of a specific wayfinding sign It's a solar powered beacon, and I'm going to pull the rendering of it right here, which is an internally illuminated sign that just basically directs drivers to be able to know where that drive up area is around the corner of the building. So just another wayfinding measure again there. And this one sits at 12 feet tall from existing grade to the height. And as I said, it's powered via a solar panel on the top. And from the west elevation, just so you guys can get a little bit more of a clear view of kind of how that's looking, this is where that's placed here, sort of on that corner, right around the west corner of the building there. As I mentioned before, each of the drive-up stalls come with a specific signage to denote the stall number. So you can see that here. We've provided a detail on our construction document set as well. But this is what that sign would look like there.
Is that a awning that covers that, or as you come around the corner there?
This here?
D, yeah.
Yes, that is. So that's a canopy that runs the entire length of the front facade. Well, not the entire length, but it's separated by this tree area here. Then towards the west, it comes and ends here on the west side of the building.
And you're resurfacing the facade itself?
Yeah, Joe, if you want to mention a little bit more about the facade.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Joe Mayhew in Minneapolis. I'm with Target Corporation, and what we're taking off right today. If you were to go to the store there, there's a canopy that extends out a good 14 feet, and it has sloped roofs to it and gabled ends to them. And we'll be removing that and going with a very simple canopy that starts out at the same level as the Dollar Tree canopy, our neighbor, and we'll step up over our entrance. And then we'll then have on the west end of the building, we'll have another canopy that shelters not only the guests coming from the west lot, but also our team members who are bringing purchases out to the drive-up, the cars that are waiting in the drive-up area. So this is essentially the true face of the building that is disguised by the current sloped roof of the canopy, the Walmart canopy. And what we'll be doing is recladding it in a stone veneer at the base, recalling the stone walls that you see throughout Connecticut. And then above that, we will be resurfacing with EIFS the upper part of the wall. And that's essentially it. Not the glazing that you see here is an enlargement of the existing glass that you have at Walmart. And adjacent to that, we'll be adding new glazing where we have the Starbucks store, the Starbucks kiosk. The columns, if you're interested in the inspiration, the columns reflect is a very abstract notion, but it was what inspired the V shape was the great forest that you have in Connecticut as well. But that's essentially, it's kept very simple. So we have clean walls and a very nice stone veneer, natural stone.
There's a CVS sign on the towards the west. Is that a separate entrance to CVS, or is that you have to come into the Target to get to the CVS?
Yes, you do. You go through the same doors as you do for the Target store, and the sign. And so that's the secondary sign to the main sign.
John or Jernique, and I guess for this applicant, did you meet with the design review committee? Do we have any comments from the design review committee?
So we did meet with the design review committee, perhaps about a month or two ago, and there were no negative comments from them. As far as we were concerned, it was a positive recommendation to the commission, although we did not see a memo. And we're not making any comments.
Dernique, is there a memo that we have from them at all? that you
No,
know
we
of?
do not have a memo. I know there were some approvals, but there was no memo.
Okay, I'm sure we have the minutes
Quick
somewhere.
question, Scott.
Yes, Mr.
Regarding
Jones.
the actual target sign, is that going to be an internally illuminated sign? And what are the hours of it being
Yeah,
lit? If
It
so?
is internally lit, as is the CVS sign and the smaller bullseye that's in line with the sidewalk coming from the street. They are internally lit and they are only on during business hours.
Do you know what the business hours are going to be?
So, Aaron, do we know that yet?
We don't know yet, but generally it's 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
What other lighting changes are being made, and have you spoken to whether they're full cutoffs and everything?
We're not proposing any other modifications to the site other than what Dean has gone through. So no changes to the site lighting are proposed.
Okay. And are there any additional lights being put on the building itself, other than the signs?
No, we won't have any lights on the buildings. We will have lights under the canopy to illuminate the sidewalk, but that's it. Nothing lighting the building.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, you've got 3 trees here, I see. Do you know what kind of trees you're putting there?
No, we haven't gotten there yet. I have not picked it, or and I shouldn't. We haven't had our landscape architect select those yet.
Okay.
There'll be in a planter that will have some plantings in it too, and that needs to be, they need to be selected. So.
I'm sure we have some local folks that will give you an idea of what they
Yeah.
think.
Our criteria is that we use local native trees and plantings, and they are drought resistant.
Okay, that's great. All right. Any other questions from commissioners?
I have a question. The actual thing that we're approving here, change of use, is that it?
This is a site plan for change of use. Yes.
Okay.
I think. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Yes, this is a site plan application.
I just like to have town staff weigh in on the signage, just to sign off on it and say, yes, it's compliant with town code or not.
Yeah, and we have done a preliminary review, and we are compliant as far as we know.
Yeah, John, do you know if there was town staff?
So my
look at it?
yeah, the town staff reviewed. This is not a change of use. It's retail to retail, so it's basically just re-tenanting the existing retail. So the site plan review is basically again, minor facade improvements, minor site plan improvements or changes relative to traffic and pedestrian. So Steve's memo or Steve's notes to me, again, he did not provide a motion on this, but noted that the re-tenanting and re-signing complied with zoning regulations and recommended, that he had no further comments on that.
Sure. I mean, certainly we can make it contingent of our approval that they have to comply with all signage.
Could I just add, we do have a sign permit application in. I know
Okay.
there was some review, some things
Okay.
with, but we do not have a solid approval just yet. Just want to add that.
Okay, that's pretty standard. Any other questions from commissioners?
Before we move on and we're on the subject of signage, I did just want to bring up one more item about specifically monument sign that we're proposing here. So we did float this by the design review committee. I believe the committee had a positive outlook on that sign. But we were proposing to modify that sign from its current look, which you can see here on the left side of the screen, to what we're showing here on the center. What's on the right is a view of the plaza sign at night.
Well, Big Y is gonna be happy about that. That's good.
So I just wanted to make sure we opened a discussion on that, and didn't lose sight of it, just to be sure it was handled.
Yeah, we really rely on the signage applications for everything related to signs. So
Okay. And we had submitted a signage application with the design review committee application. So assume that's all been reviewed already. And I guess we don't need to discuss it any further here.
Nope.
okay,
We're good.
we'll see. Seeing no other comments from commissioners, would anyone like to make a motion related to this site plan application?
Sorry, we do have a memo from
Oh.
the environmental planner.
Great,
Hold that up.
love it. Mr. Freeman,
Oh,
you got this one.
Yeah, you do love it. I know you do.
Hey
All
guys,
right.
I used to read all of these, so it's fine.
Yeah. To Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission from Kevin McGee, Environmental Planner, RE Site Plan Target Corporation, 900 Boston Post Road, Guilford, Connecticut, 06427, map 47, lot 22B. Target Corporation is proposing to re-tenant the existing commercial building with a retail use and making associated traffic and pedestrian improvements in the wetlands are located on the north side of the Boston Post Road, in which the stormwater from the site discharges to and behind the south side of the Stafford Plaza. None of the proposed work is located within the inland wetlands regulated review area. If any work to occur within the inland wetlands regulated review area, an inland wetlands permit would be required. The proposed plans for the project have sedimentation and erosion control procedures that are in compliance with 273-97B subsection 6 of the zoning regulations in 100 feet of the jurisdiction and review zone. I recommend the following conditions of approval in order to make sure the natural resources are protected. The town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect the sedimentation and code erosion control measures prior to any site work. The stockpiles should be contained with silt fencing and or hay bales. Soil and erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable materials installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer.
Thanks. Dean, do you have any issues with that
Nope, we do not. Standard.
condition of approval? Great, thank you. All right, no further items on this, and would anyone like to make a motion related to this site plan application?
So moved.
Well,
Gonna elaborate on that one, Sean? You gotta actually make the motion, my man.
Oh, I don't have it in front of me, so.
yeah, it's gonna fall on you again, Phil.
Voted.
Bill,
Oh,
Bill,
good.
you've
Oh,
done
good,
such
Phil.
a good job. Keep it up.
Voted. The Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve an application by Target Corporation, 900 Boston Post Road, map 47, lot 22B, zone SC, site plan application to re-tenant the existing commercial building with retail use and make associated traffic and pedestrian site improvements. This approval is contingent upon acceptance of the conditions from the town engineer. Is that right? No, it was
No.
from environmental planner.
Environmental planner.
There we
And
go.
with the most updated drawings that have been applied.
Thank you.
Great. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Todd. Any discussion? Seeing none. Bob Harrington,
Aye.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Philip Johnson,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I will also vote yes. Good luck with all this. Do you have a projected start date?
We don't yet. I can tell you we're in our design process right now for the building. We open our stores 3 times a year. So we're still lining up that opening date. And we have to wait for the pickleball users to get out, so. Okay. So,
I can tell
Well,
you
they-
that
they-
there are a lot
they
of
will
people
not-
looking forward to you coming.
They're gonna
you know.
be tenacious,
Saturday.
so watch
Yeah,
out.
they're not gonna go, they're not gonna go willingly.
we'll tread lightly.
Mhm. All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for staying up with us. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you for the time.
Great.
All right, we have a couple applications that we need to receive. Town of Guilford Long Hill Park, map 85, lot 1, zone R5, application to modify approved site plan to move the location of the proposed solar powered multi-sport scoreboard, as well as Town of Guilford Long Hill Park, map 85, lot 1, zone R5, application to modify approved site plan to add a shed. Do I have a motion to receive those?
So moved.
Thank you, Sean. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Phil. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous to me. All right. Approval of minutes. We
the
have,
July 26th. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, say that again.
We only have the July 26th.
All right, it was circulated. I saw it looked substantially complete to me. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes from July 26th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Ted, I think that was Bill.
That was Bill.
Okay. We'll do roll call because I assume Bob Harrington's gonna want to abstain from this one.
You are correct.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Bill Johnson,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I will also vote yes to approve. We'll work on improving the rest of those minutes soon. All right, Ann or John or Janique, anything else that we need to go over before we move on?
If I might, I just want to, and I appreciate the commissioner, thanking us for bridging the gap, but I just wanted to recognize Janique, who is an absolute rock star of a development person, and you guys are really, really, really lucky to have her working with you.
John, thank you for saying that, and it is pushing 10:30, and Janique, we're lucky to have you, so thank you for being here.
Yep.
I appreciate
They're
that.
very organized. I love it.
Yeah, and John, no hard feelings, but I hope we don't really see you again
I
anytime
know.
soon.
Matt has
Yeah.
expressed a similar sentiment. I wish you all well, and you're in good hands with Ann.
Okay,
Thank you, John.
thanks. All right, if that's it, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Sean.
I'll second.
Oh, good. Get in there, Bob. I appreciate
get in
that.
there, Bob.
I like that.
And I
Oh.
appreciate the fact that Bob was actually like thrown right into the fire today.
Oh yeah. And I had him first in my list, and once my list is made, then it is what it is. So sorry, Bob.
Whatever.
All right, all in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Bob, at some point, we'll explain the logic behind the meeting rule for special permits. There actually is some logic behind it, but.
Yeah, I need to get into the weeds of all the regulations really at some point.
Well, don't spend too much time. They're about to change.
Yeah, seriously.
Is there any update on that, Scott? As to when
Yeah,
we
so
might
next meeting we'll
actually-
have our official public hearing for the map and only the map. I imagine there's going to be people that are going to try to comment on other things, but we will do our best to focus people's comments to specifically the map.
Correction, Scott, you will do your best.
Yes. Well, it's a collective we, right?
Right.
And
Royal we.
And so then once the public hearing is closed on that item, then we will be able to decide whether or not we feel comfortable with voting or not.
And Matt
on the whole thing.
On the whole thing. Mr. Hurley?
Yeah,
So
Mr. Chairman, it's just,
possibly in 2 meetings we'll be there, or 3, is that?
No,
what-
next meeting, I believe the 20th.
Oh, we can do the whole thing?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
As long as we feel like we can close the public hearing on the map. obviously.
So
if
Bill,
we need to-
Bill, get your sleep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mr. Hoey.
I know this was a long one because one of my earbuds died.
Oh, I thought those were hearing aids.
I was using those. They are terrible for this. This is better. iPad, earbuds, whatever they are, Apple thing.
Right, right. Just as a bit of information that came to my attention today, I had a visit from one of the principals at BL Companies, which is the engineering company that BC2 was using for the development of the Sullivan property. And there might be some respite for you folks for a little while relative to the zoning changes at that end of town, because BC2 is no longer has rights to the property any longer. So things are changing out on that end of town.
We'll see what happens.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Have a great night.
Thank you, Scott.
And this is a pretty long one. Don't think like this is going to be every time. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
it's-
All my meetings have been like this.
Okay.
And Ann's.
It's nice to meet you, man.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night.